What if I told you that the reason you feel so overwhelmed by your emotions isn't because you're broken, weak, or too sensitive? The real reason is that nobody ever taught you how emotions actually work. In the next few short minutes, I'm going to share 5 practical steps that will help you with how you experience your feelings. And here's the thing. Step number 4 is the game changer. So stick around because by the end of this episode, you're going to have actual tools that you can use today. Hey there, and welcome back to the Hope Regained podcast. I'm your host, Christiane Boudreau, and I'm so glad that you're here. Whether you're listening while folding laundry, commuting to work, or pretending to work from home, no judgment, we've all been there. I'm really excited about today's episode. Before we dive in, if you're new here, welcome to the Hope Regained family. This is a place where we talk about real mental health struggles without all the fluff, the shame, or the toxic positivity. Just honest conversations about getting better one step at a time, baby steps. So today we're tackling something that affects literally every single person listening, emotional regulation. Now, I know that sounds like therapist talk, but stay with me because this is actually life-changing stuff. Let me paint you a picture. Have you ever had one of those days where someone cuts you off in traffic and suddenly you're rage screaming at a stranger who can't even hear you? Or your partner asks a simple question like, "What's for dinner?" And you burst into tears because why is everything always on you? Or maybe you're scrolling social media, see someone's highlight reel, and suddenly you're spiraling into a comparison pit of despair. Yeah, we've all been there. And here's what nobody tells you. Feeling this way doesn't mean you're failing at life. It means you're human and you just haven't learned the skills yet. As I always say, your emotions are messengers, not monsters. When you learn their language, they stop controlling you. Let's talk about what emotional regulation actually is. Simply put, it's your ability to manage and respond to your emotional experiences in a healthy way. It's not about suppressing your feelings or pretending everything's fine when it's not. It's about being the driver of your emotional car instead of being thrown around in the trunk. And I'm going to give you 5 concrete steps you can start using today. But here's the deal. And this is important. Step 5 is the piece that ties everything together. Without it, the other steps won't be nearly as effective. Step 1, name it to tame it. When you're feeling overwhelmed, your brain's alarm system, the amygdala, is basically screaming like a smoke detector that won't shut off. The simple act of naming your emotion actually calms that alarm system down. But here's where most people mess this up. They say, "I'm stressed," or "I'm fine," or my personal favorite, "I'm just tired." Those aren't emotions. They're covers for emotions. Try this instead. Next time you're feeling off, ask yourself, what am I actually feeling right now? And get specific, not just bad. Dig deeper. Are you feeling anxious about the future? Disappointed maybe by an outcome? Resentful because your needs aren't being met? Lonely even though you're surrounded by people? Overwhelmed because you said yes one too many times? The more specific you can be, the more your brain can actually process the emotion instead of just looping it in. And look, I get it. When you're in the middle of a meltdown, stopping to journal about your feelings sounds about as appealing as doing taxes. But even just pausing for 5 seconds and thinking, okay, I'm feeling angry. And underneath that, I'm feeling disrespected. It makes a massive difference. Remember, the emotion you avoid is the emotion that controls you. The emotion you name is the emotion you can change. Step 2, create space between feeling and reacting. This is the difference between emotional regulation and emotional suppression. We're not trying to stop the feelings from happening. It doesn't work like that. We're trying to stop ourselves from doing something we'll regret 3 seconds later. There's this concept called the 90-second rule from brain scientist Dr. Jill Bolt Taylor. She says that when an emotion is triggered, the chemical reaction in your body lasts about 90 seconds. After that, any remaining emotional response is because you're choosing to stay in the loop. So here's what you do. When you feel a big emotion rising, try the STOP technique. This is an acronym, and this will help you remember it. The S starts with stop what you're doing. T stands for take a breath, or 3 or 4, or maybe more if you're like I am. O means observe what's happening in your body and mind. Really pay attention. P is proceed with intention. It isn't about controlling the emotion so much as it's about not letting the emotion control you. And there's a big difference. Like, I used to fire off text messages when I was really upset. And let me tell you, 2 a.m. angry texts have a 100% regret rate. Now, when I'm feeling reactive, I write the text, save it as a draft, and revisit it in an hour or sometimes more. About 80% of the time, I delete it. The other 20%, I rewrite it in a way that actually communicates instead of just venting. And that really goes for emails too. Step number 3, understand your triggers and patterns. This is where we get a little detective-y, and honestly, this is kind of fun once you get into it. Most of us react the same way to the same types of situations over and over. And we're like, why does this keep happening to me? When really we should be asking, what pattern am I stuck in? Start paying attention to what sets you off. And I don't mean just the obvious stuff. Look for patterns like time of day. Are you more reactive when you're tired? Physical state. Hungry? That's a real thing. Hangry is a science. Specific people or situations. Unmet needs. Maybe you snap at your partner because you need alone time, but feel guilty for asking for it. I'll give you an example from my own life. I used to get irrationally angry every time someone gave me advice I didn't ask for, like full on body rage. I thought those people were just being condescending. But when I actually looked at the pattern, I realized it triggered a deeper wound about feeling like I wasn't capable or like I was being treated like a child. Once I understood why unsolicited advice really bothered me, I could respond differently. Instead of snapping, I could say, hey, I appreciate you caring, but I actually just need you to listen right now. Just need to vent. Game changer. Self-awareness isn't self-criticism. It's the flashing light that helps you navigate the dark. All right. Step number 4 now. This one is the one I mentioned at the very beginning. This is a secret sauce that changes everything. Feel your feelings physically. Now, I know that sounds weird, so hear me out. Most of us live entirely in our heads. We think about our feelings. We analyze them to death sometimes. We tell stories about them. But emotions aren't just mental experiences. They're physical experiences. And when you actually feel them in your body, instead of just thinking about them, they process and move through you. There's research from people like Bessel van der Kolk, who literally wrote the book on trauma, and Peter Levine, who developed somatic experiencing. They've shown that emotions need to complete their cycle in the body. When we interrupt that cycle by distracting ourselves, intellectualizing, or completely numbing out, and I know that one very well, the emotion gets stuck. So here's what you do. Next time you're feeling a strong emotion, instead of immediately trying to fix it or understand it, just notice where you feel it in your body. Does anxiety feel like tightness in your chest? Does anger feel like heat in your face? Does sadness feel like heaviness in your shoulders? Then, and this is the wild part, just stay with that sensation for a minute or two. Breathe into it. Don't try to make it go away. Just acknowledge that it's there. The first time I did this with anxiety, I felt this buzzing in my chest. It was almost as if my heart was going to jump out and run away. And I just sat with it, breathing and thinking, okay, there's buzzing. That's just energy. And after about 90 seconds, remember that 90-second rule, it actually started to dissipate. I was shocked. This doesn't work for everything. And sometimes you do need professional help to process the bigger stuff. But for everyday emotional regulation, this is absolute gold. Remember, we've got one more step to go. And it's the one that makes all of this sustainable long-term. So don't click away just yet. Step number 5, build your emotional resilience routine. Here's the truth that nobody wants to hear. You can't regulate emotions you don't have the capacity to handle. Think of emotional regulation like a phone battery. If you're constantly running at 2% because you're not sleeping, you're eating absolute garbage, or you're isolated and you're stressed right out of your mind, you're not going to have the energy to regulate anything. You're just in survival mode. So step 5 is about building your baseline resilience. Now, this includes physical foundation, sleep. I know, seriously, sleep deprivation makes everything 10 times worse. Movement, not Instagram perfect workouts, just moving your body. That means getting up, walking around the house for a couple of minutes. Nutrition, eating actual food, not just surviving on coffee and chaos. And I know that one well as well. Then there's the emotional foundation. There's connection, real human connection, not just liking posts. Boundaries, saying no without guilt. Talked about boundaries a lot. Joy, doing things just because they make you happy, not because they're productive. Next one is a mental foundation. Mindfulness or meditation, even for just 5 minutes. And we've talked about this in past episodes, the importance. And I've got something that I've stepped out of my boundaries or my comfort zone coming up in a future episode in that whole mindfulness and meditation realm. Gratitude practice. And I know it sounds cheesy, but it really does rewire your brain. And self-compassion. I repeat it a lot, but it's so important. Talking to yourself like you talk to a friend. And I'm hoping you're good to your friends. Now look, I'm not saying you need to become a wellness influencer who wakes up at 5 a.m. to meditate and journal and do hot yoga. I'm saying pick 1 or 2 things that actually feel doable and do them consistently. Baby steps. For me, it's a 10-minute morning meditation to start my day in a positive mindset and a 5-minute evening gratitude journal. That's it. But those 2 tiny habits have made me exponentially better at handling my emotions throughout the day. You can't pour from an empty cup, but you also can't fill your cup if you keep punching holes in the bottom. Okay, so let's recap because I know that was a lot. 5 steps to emotional regulation. Name it, tame it. Get specific about what you're actually feeling. Create space. Use the stop, S-T-O-P technique to pause between feeling and reacting. Understand your patterns. Play detective with your triggers. Really get to understand them. Feel it physically. Let emotions complete their cycle in your body. And build resilience. Resilience is key to everything. Take care of your physical, emotional, and mental foundation. And for some, that includes that spiritual piece with the mental and the emotional. And here's what I want you to remember. This is a practice, not a perfection. You're not going to nail this every single time. You're going to have days where you completely lose it over something small, but that's okay. Remember, you're human first. Healing isn't linear, and neither is emotional regulation. Every time you try, you're building the muscle. Every time you practice, you're creating new pathways. Be patient with yourself. If you want to go deeper with this, I've created a free emotional regulation worksheet that walks you through all 5 steps with space for reflection and practice. You can grab that over at www.hoperegain.com/blog. It's completely free. And honestly, it goes a long way for actually implementing this stuff instead of just hearing about it. Also, if this episode resonated with you, I'd love it if you could share it with that one person who really needs to hear this today. Not everyone, just the ones that you know could use it. Let's spread hope, one share at a time. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. Remember, you're not broken. You're not too much. You're not failing. You're learning, you're growing, and you're exactly where you need to be. I'll see you in the next episode. Until then, take care of yourself. You're worth it.